Okay, we're live. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 82nd, or at least what I think is the 82nd episode of Security on the In30 Network. I know we skipped last week, but there was nothing last week, and to be honest with you, it's just news this week. So we just have lots of little itty-bitty news things to see what's going to happen, and hopefully we get a good discussion out of some of them. So my Hangouts doesn't work on a long day. I had a bad luck day today, so I'm going to hope Tom can hold the show together like he always does.
I'll try my best.
So what's first?
First up, we have got a cool story of police using data acquired from a fitbit as evidence in an investigation. And it's actually kind of neat, and not the usual anti-police, anti-law enforcement rants we go on.
So Engadget posted this, but I don't think police figured it out. They just helped corroborate the defendant's information.
Right. I should have been a bit more clear. So essentially what happens is someone calls 911. A woman claims that she's been assaulted by a home invader, and she woke up around midnight and the stranger was attacking her, and she lost her tracker while struggling against this person. Authorities found the Fitbit, which recorded her at the time when she claimed as active and walking around all night, so she wasn't asleep as she claimed. There's additional evidence, like they couldn't find, the boot prints or tracks in the snow or anything else to corroborate this woman's story. So they didn't make any arrests. Kind of cool that data can be used in this way to exonerate people, as well as catch people who are guilty. And it's definitely not the first time this has happened, but I feel that as these devices get more common, we're going to see more and more of this, of data coming out, like Google location services data, where your phone tracks where you are all the time, and you get the cool map in your Google account that says, hey, Tom, you've been at work for like 200 hours this week, which I don't think is even possible, but you should probably go home at some point in time. I've actually had Google peg my work location as home and home as work because the time difference between the two. At that point, I took a vacation. But I think we're going to start seeing more of this stuff come out in law enforcement cases. You'll start seeing a lot of it in the media, where evidence and data collected by these devices that we're wearing or that are in our homes are used as, beacons or evidence or just facts in another investigation.
A few years ago, I say a few years, this is probably more like 10 years ago, a Garmin GPS was brought into evidence to show that the guy, that a suspect wasn't speeding or wasn't committing some sort of movement violation. And it was eventually thrown out because it wasn't scientific or whatever it was. So I don't know how I feel about this, but at least, you know what? It helped it helped an innocent guy maintain his innocence by checking the Fitbit data. And I think we just have to be cognizant of all this data that we're doing. Well, it helps us, but also may help somebody else in unintended ways.
Right. So for instance, I know someone who had a fender bender, and they were collecting data at the time through their dash cam, and they weren't dishonest. They said, "Yeah, I totally rear-ended this person. I wasn't paying attention. It was my fault." But if law enforcement gets a hold of the SD card, gets a hold of that footage, they're going to know pretty quickly whose fault the accident was. So this technology, we should be more aware of what data we're putting out there, because this could help us or it could hurt us. It all depends on the situation.
I mean, I keep Google location data on because it actually does help me more so than it hurts me. But absolutely, that's something that they can subpoena Google for, and we can have, and there could be lots of problems if you're lying about where you're supposed to be, or if you're afraid that someone's going to know.
Right. And, let's remember that Google is being very honest and upfront about what they're doing with our location data, right? They're being honest upfront when you first turn on your Android phone or when you get Maps loaded onto your iPhone. It says, hey, look, we'd like to collect anonymized data from you, or even personalized data if you would allow it to be locked into your account. You can turn this off, though. Just uncheck these boxes and hit next. And it's not like it just checks it by default and moves on. It will actually make you, read the text and hit next to accept what they're, the default options, which is to opt into location services. Other apps.
And if you want the traffic history, then yes, you have to opt into it.
Right. So Google will tell me in the morning, hey, look, there's an accident. You're going to have to leave about 15 minutes early in order to beat traffic to, make the meetings that are on your calendar for this morning. That's really cool. That's really powerful. I find it really convenient. But, Google is very upfront and nice, letting you know what they're doing with your location data. Some apps just don't, right? So I know that Uber uses a lot of location data to try to find large congregations of people, so they can put Uber cars around the area. So like a popular bar or a nightclub or an event that's happening, like a concert. And they can try to position drivers around groups of people. Now, you don't know that your data is going to be used like that going into it, right? You just think you're going to peg yourself on the map and a car is going to pick you up. But no, they actually use that data for other things. It's not as upfront honest as Google is. So that's just another thing to be aware of.
They got smacked around for that, I think. I think this was a story a week or two ago. And they said that, and they said, well, we're doing it for the benefit. And it was, well, you didn't ask the user if they can do it. And right. You didn't ask the user if they can do it only within the app. You did it while you were running in the background.
Yeah, it was a little shady. I understand why they were doing it, and I honestly do believe that they were doing it to help their business, to help put cars where people are in case they want them or need them. They should have been upfront. So it's another thing to keep in mind, right? What happens if someone subpoenas Uber and says, hey, look, do you have a customer with this telephone number or with this email address, and where were they on this night? I don't know if Uber keeps historical records. I imagine they probably do, because it would help them maneuver cars in the future. But again, it's just more pieces of data that are out of your control.
Well, they would, but not in that direct way, because remember, they have to pay their drivers.
Right.
So they're going to use, they need that data to count that as expenses so they can reduce their tax base. So while they may not have where you were, they know how to get it by looking through the driver database and seeing who picked whom up.
Right. So just another thing to keep in mind. We do have another story from WikiLeaks, who's actually, they've been out of the news for a little bit, and they're back in with full force. WikiLeaks has published some more NSA documents that reveal that the NSA has spied on top French top French companies as industrial espionage, not national security.
Well, didn't we find out right as soon as we revealed it that we spied on Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany?
Yeah, that's a little different. It is spying on allies, right? Which some people say we shouldn't do it. Other people say we should. That's neither here nor there. But spying on Merkel was a politically motivated piece of espionage, right? That was politically motivated spying. This was targeted directly at French companies. This was purely economic. It was taking trade secrets, looking at deals, trying to figure out where money's going, seeing who's looking at buying who. There's a lot of big business data that the NSA apparently wanted to get their hands on.
See, what I don't understand is why would they do? Look, I can understand spying to find national security things, but why are they spying on companies?
Without the NSA coming forward to say exactly why and us believing them, the only thing we're going to have here is conjecture. Personally, I believe it's just another mission of the NSA to protect American interests. One of those interests being keeping the American economy on top, keeping American companies on top. If you can steal trade secrets, if you can steal information relating to the European economy or certain technology sectors in France, you can then position and leverage American companies or give American companies new pieces of technology that were built by these French companies to try to prop them up, keep them on top, right? Keep us competitive in the market.
But it sounds like that means somebody has to look at it. Like, they're not bulk collecting it. They're looking at it. They're collecting it, and then somebody's going to have to look at it to see if there's something there.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah, this is a definitely targeted espionage. Some of the industries are telecommunications, electrical generation, gas, oil, nuclear, renewable energy, environmental and healthcare technologies. There's actually an espionage order, a second espionage order called France, economic developments. And this is a quote directly from the TechCrunch article. Shows that information was then shared with other U.S. agencies and secretaries, including the Secretary of Energy, the Secretary of Commerce, the Federal Reserve, and the Secretary of Treasury. Eventually, this data could have been used to help sign export deals, right? So it's not just in industrial espionage, right? They're using this data in a politically motivated way to help get the upper hand in trade negotiations, in export deals, in other things. The NSA is not just interested in spying on Americans, spying on the rest of the world, and catching terrorists. It seems like they also are very interested in big business in Europe.
Well, I mean, that's scary on many levels, because it's saying, hey, we're not just spying to protect ourselves, but we're spying to steal secrets, and that I don't think anybody would agree that that's what it was used for. That is not part of the Patriot Act.
No, not at all, not in the least. But then again, the Patriot Act is not the only thing that gives the NSA legal authority to do what they do, right? What do we pay these people for, right? We pay them to go spy on people. How far they've gone, what they're actually doing, how they're destroying or attempting to destroy the security of our computer networks and systems, it's actually making us less secure. That's all besides the point. We're paying them, and they're doing the job. It's not morally correct, and I'm sure that France and our other allies absolutely hate the fact that this is going on and we're doing this to them, but what are they going to do about it?
Well, yeah, that's the issue. And then on a side note, and I want to forget my train of thought, weren't they also going after virus vendors? I don't know if that's in our rundown.
It's not, but we can totally talk about it.
I mean, you're saying they're going after businesses, and then another source comes out that's saying that, I think Kaspersky was saying that
yes, they
were either asking for backdoors or they were purposely spying on virus vendors, and I'm assuming to figure out if they figured out zero-day exploits that the NSA could no longer use.
Right. So the NSA's got one of their chief concerns is making sure that if they build a virus, if they build a piece of malware to go out and fire at a target system or a group of target systems or at a French oil company, they want to make sure that Kaspersky or another antivirus software doesn't pop up and say, hey, we caught w32/NSA spytool.exe, right? They don't want that happening. Of course, they're not going to name their malware that. but they want to make sure that their applications aren't going to get caught by network filters or application filters. So going into these AV companies, figuring out what they're scanning, how their databases work, and how to effectively evade them is one of the things they're going to do. Looking at the types of malware that these companies are investigating to get new ideas, to get new design tips and techniques, that's going to be something that they were doing.
I mean, now you're saying two different things. You're saying, one, we're spying on people in the name of national security. This is to protect our interests.
Or economic security.
Okay. Now you're saying, well, now we're spying on foreign businesses, and not Chinese businesses, but allies.
Right.
And now we're spying on the manufacturers to try and keep people safe because we don't like how they're actually keeping people safe.
Right. Now, again, I don't want to make it sound like, the NSA is the giant bully on the playground just pushing everyone around, right? GCHQ totally spies on Americans and American companies and everyone. Every single country's espionage division spies on everything that they possibly can because that's their job, right? The U.S. is not the only country doing this. What we can take away from this, what we have to think about and learn about and implement is, how do we stop this stuff? How do we secure our networks? How do we train our users? And how do we build a better mousetrap, right? How do we build better platforms to find this stuff when it comes into our network? How do we stop it at the source? How do we protect our data that's important to us? That's what we need to concern ourselves with. The spies are going to spy. If we keep feeding them money, no matter what country or agency they work for, they're going to spy. That's their job. We need to figure out how to protect ourselves.
And, and you want to make sure, look, and it goes back to, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, but you don't want to use that argument because you don't want to all of a sudden be in a position where you need to send a secure message and you don't know how, or you're afraid of doing something because you're afraid someone's going to steal it.
Right. It's definitely the having nothing to hide argument is poor for a wide variety of reasons, and frankly, we could and probably should do an entire episode on why, well, I have nothing to hide is such a poor argument against,
I mean, that's the number one argument. That's the number one argument that I get, and I said, and we've spoken about, we showed Moxie Marlin Spike's article before,
yep.
But we said that okay, so let's say you have nothing to hide, and then all of a sudden, this happened to a coworker. They turned their laptop into Best Buy, and she comes to me and says, do I have to worry about anything? And I said, look, she was about to turn it in. No, I could have gone into, no, you have to download DBAN and everything else and everything. And I said, do you have anything on there that's potentially sensitive? And she said, I have one thing, and it's a credit card picture. And I said, well, there you go. So how many times did you use Apple Pay to take a photo of your credit card, and now that's uploaded to the Google Cloud, the Apple Cloud, the Dropbox Cloud, or anything like that, and you forget about it, and then you're saying, oh, all of a sudden now as you're standing in Best Buy turning in your laptop, or you're turning it back into the company or whatever it is, or you're formatting your phone or sending your phone for a warranty, to say, oh, now I need to learn how to do it. And now when you need to learn how to do it is probably the most inconvenient time.
Security is like it's like personal health or fitness, right? It's way easier if you do it every day, a little bit every day, make sure your posture is correct, right? Make sure you're exercising regularly. This weekend warrior stuff with security doesn't cut it. It's got to be a lifestyle. It's got to be how you operate your machines, your phones, your devices on a daily basis, how you use networks at work, at home, in between, on the cell phone, everything, right? It's got to be small little habits and lifestyle choices you make for yourself to make yourself more secure, or else you end up at the Best Buy saying, well, I've got all my tax stuff on here and my credit card pictures and a bunch of sensitive data. I'm going to hand it to this guy that I don't know what he's going to do with it. And, the news stories have circulated on this forever. The Geek Squad guys, yeah, they take your MP3s, right?
Yes.
No one cares about their MP3s. Whatever. Take my music library. I don't care. Have at it. It's a bunch of really bad dance music.
They look for, what is it called? I mean, the story from the Consumerist years ago was that they were looking for, if a teenage girl comes in, for photos.
Yeah.
They were looking for photos to see what they could find for themselves. Exactly. But it's... I told this lady, look, I know it. After talking to this teacher, I said, you know what? She probably doesn't have anything that's really there. And so, whatever, just give it in. And she said, well, that photo had only the number, but didn't have the credit card, this and that. And I said, look, I think you're fine. I really do. But just watch it, monitor it, and go from there. I did want to do a talk, and I've been talking to the local union about this. Our teachers, and I say our, not necessarily my district, but it's collective, we tend to worry about test security more than actual security. We're afraid that kids are going to cheat. So much so that we do all these different things. We print it on different color sheets of paper. We scramble the questions. We scramble the numbers. But the thing that the easiest vector is we don't care about our passwords. We're so mad that school forces us to change our passwords every September that we just say, you know what? That's fine. Or when they call, can you do attendance? And you tell a kid, oh, log on. Here's my password. Not thinking that the kid will go later on and not change it, but steal all the data. And it's happened before, but we care so much about the security in the day of, we don't take it as, like you said, a lifestyle.
And I take it that password is a network password. It's your email password.
It's single sign-on. I'm sure you can.
You can access your email from home, right? How many times have you emailed yourself a document or used your cloud storage at work to put something, in the shared drive or in your personal home folder to work on and access later? All the time. I know I've emailed myself lots of documents. Some of those were sensitive, right? Occasionally, I have the sense to go and delete that document out of Gmail later, or whatever mail application I'm using at the time. Other times, I know I've forgotten. But how easy would it be for a kid to log on? Let's say he's a smart kid. Let's say he logs on through Tor, right? Logs onto your email, pulls down the test. He's like, well, it might not be the final test version, but I've got a general idea of the questions on here. Mm-hmm. Security can't just be one piece, right? You can have the best front door locks ever with a robot laser sword guard and 6 guard dogs that are 12 feet tall each. But if you leave the windows open in the back on the ground level, someone can still walk away with your TV and your safe, right?
There was a Seinfeld episode where Jerry's apartment got stolen because Kramer left the door open, and Jerry said, hey, it had one flaw. You got to lock the door.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've all seen that, right? It's all the subject of one hilarious sitcom or another or a cartoon where someone is really guarded in this one particular spot, so the person trying to get in just walks around. There's a hilarious picture online of a path, and there's just one gate, not even a fence, but just a gate, and people can just walk around the gate, and you see paths in the grass leading around the gate. And it just says "Do not enter." It's got to be a full collective. I'm going to be more secure, right?
Correct. So next story. Is there another story?
Well, we've got some small stuff. Today, David Cameron again decided to go off about encryption, and he wants to make sure that there are no safe spaces, as he says, on the internet for the terrorists to communicate, meaning he wants the UK's government to be able to read everything, not some things, not just the stuff on Twitter, not just the stuff you send in Gmail or on Hangouts or in WhatsApp. He wants everything to be readable by the UK government with a warrant.
Oh, which leads us into the story after that, but... Now, again, he's saying this because he has all the best intentions.
I honestly don't think he does. because there's one quote in particular from him that really puts me on edge, right? We've had politicians say really dumb things with the best of intentions before, but I'm going to paraphrase this quote. Cameron said it's not enough to just be a law-abiding citizen of the UK. That's not enough anymore to be above the line, right? You're going to have to go above and beyond law-abiding citizen to escape warrants or spying or suspicion.
So you can't just be a normal person. You have to make sure you follow every rule.
You've got to be 100% for Her Majesty's service. Died in the Union Jack, UK nationalist. To be off of David Cameron's potential terrorist radar. You can't say something like that and have it be construed in a positive manner. Like, well, maybe he just wants to protect the children. Maybe he just wants to stop the terrorists, which, by the way, is a buzzword that every country uses now. It's
child pornography and terrorism. Everyone hates.
It's communism. This is McCarthyism all over again, right?
Unless you're a terrorist. That's the thing. Unless you're a terrorist.
Better dead than red. I don't know how he could say this, get elected again, and then keep going on the encryption tirade. Oh, and by the way, Obama kind of agrees with him on the encryption thing. Now, everyone who is someone in security and cryptography has written, not just people, companies, giant companies, have written and signed this letter, given it to Cameron, given it to Obama, gave it to the FBI director, and they said, guys, you cannot backdoor encryption without destroying the tech economy here. And by the way, backdooring encryption doesn't get rid of encryption. It just gets rid of the companies who have backdoored encryption, right? OpenPGP and GPG and SSH and OpenBSD and all of the great security-minded projects out there will still exist. No one's going to stop building this stuff because you tell them not to. I know if it comes down to it, on my website you can pull down TrueCrypt, you can pull down GPG. I will become the safe harbor for encryption against the law, and you can hold me to that.
Well, and again, the good thing is Obama's gone in a year and a half. The problem is that the only person who stands up for our rights is Rand Paul.
Yeah.
And not to get political, but that's one of the very few saving graces that he has, but that's a pretty big one.
So I know people in the UK. I know people under Cameron's rule right now. And it's not just Cameron, obviously, but I know the people who live over there are just they're face palming, they're shaking their heads, they cannot believe someone could be this dense. But hey, it happened, and he's currently one of the people running the country. We're gonna have to keep a close eye on this. It's getting to the point of being ridiculous. Prohibition doesn't work. Ever. We have seen this time and time again. And especially when you try to take something out of the internet or off the internet, and something as small and simple as code that does encryption, you're going to get the biggest, bestest Streisand effect ever. That stuff is going to go everywhere, to every deep, dark corner of the internet. No one can get rid of encryption. But they're going to try.
Does Taylor Swift need to write an angry letter?
Oh, yes. Oh, Taylor, if you're out there, I know you're busy with your music career and your InfoSec career, but if you could just write a letter to David Cameron to tell him to stop being a moron, we would greatly appreciate it.
And can you sign it with a heart and say, love Tay-Tay?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, just let him know that you're really against this and you'll pull your album from the UK or you won't tour there, and the Queen will be really upset.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will work.
It'll be perfect.
And I've kept on saying this, Taylor Swift is actually security minded. Some of the stuff she did for her album is actually a good read, where she had security vans and she played loud music on the outside. She did some pretty cool stuff for her album to keep it secure. Recorded on an air gap machine and everything else. I mean, they really did some stuff. So she can talk. I'll let her talk. I'll let her write the letter. I'll sign it. Okay, with that said, we are overtime, which we never thought we would say, but we are overtime. So we will see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.